Okay, for part number 2 in the evaluation of in HCI, this is second part. Okay, it's right. Involving how to evaluate. Okay, so the aim of this second part of the lecture is explain how to do usability testing. Second one, try to explain basic of experimental design, and then describe how to do field study. Right. So for usability testing, one of the most important things is the requirement of usability testing. We need to interact with the user, right? Uh, I put it in this way, okay, involve recording performance, comparison of product or prototype in commons means that you can make a comparison study between prototype number 1, prototype number 2, and prototype number 3, and so on. And then it must be in control setting. User are observed and time means that you have to record the time of the user when they do the task. Okay, this is to make sure that you can observe the performance of the user. Some of the data has to be recorded, like video recorded, or maybe you have some tools like key press tools, key press log, and so on. The data is used to calculate performance times and identify and explain error, right? And then user satisfaction is evaluated using questionnaire and interview. So this is the requirement for usability testing, right? So if you're looking into condition testing, usability lab or other control space, you can convert your space into usability lab if you want it. And then emphasize on selecting representative user. You have to develop representative tasks. Okay, how to develop tasks? This is something that you have to find. Okay, at the moment I want you to find it yourself first. Try to go to Jacob Nelson website like nngroups.com. Okay, let me show you. Okay, this is a good place for you to explore how to develop tasks. Okay. This is the website that have a good informations. All right. So if you go here, you can see this is the way how to do the searching in a very fast way. Develop tasks. Right. So if you can see task scenario. Okay. That's the way how involving tasks, right? Okay, you can go through this website, how to develop tasks. Okay, might give you some idea. Doesn't sounds good. Maybe we can go for how to develop task scenario usability testing. Okay. Yeah, they give you, this is the website that I'm looking for. Right, okay, this is the one. Turn user goal into task scenario for usability testing. Okay, if you go to task scenario, I want you to read this article and get a lot of information about how to create task scenario for usability testing. Okay, if you go for Google, it also actually go for these particular things. Make the task realistic. This is the one actually. Task scenario usability testing. Yeah, this is the one for you to explore more about how to develop tasks. Number one, make the task realistic. You have to see how they make the task. Number two, make the task actionable. Number three, avoid giving clue and describe the task, things like that. So this is a good article for you to explore, right? Okay, let me go for next lecture notes. Okay, in usability testing, normally we involve more than 5 user. Typically, if you want to have a good result, you go for 15 15 user, 1 5. Okay. Normally, not one set of tasks should give user around 30 minutes. Okay, the maximum should be less than 1 hour. Otherwise, the user will feel boring and frustrated and feel exhausted. Things like that might happen to the user, right? And you have to make sure test conditions are the same for every participant. And then don't forget to inform consent form, explanation procedure, deal with ethical issues. Okay. So these are one of the most important things need to be highlighted before you can conduct tests. Okay, how many participants is good enough for testing? It depends actually. Normally we have 5 to 10, but in order to get a good result, you go for 15. That would be good enough. Okay, so this is a formula to show that why you need to test with only minimum 5 users. Okay, the numbers of usability problem in usability testing with end user can be formed in this formula: n bracket n minus bracket 1 minus l close bracket multiplied by n and close bracket. So where n is the total number of usability problems, this is usability problem in the design, and l is the proportion of usability problem discovered while testing a single user, right? So this is the formula to show that usability problem found in usability within n user, right? So you can see this graph to show that usability problem found, okay, you got 100% found when the user achieved to 12 numbers of users. So the first user might found a very small numbers of usability problem. And then with 6 users, we can get more than 75% usability problem. And we stop at 12. 12 normally user, they will get around 100 participants. That's why I would recommend you to go for 15 user in usability testing. Okay. Why we need only 5? Okay, because there will be a repetitions. Okay, majority of the user have the similar capabilities. Okay, and then if you test more than 5, it's almost repeat again and again. And the graph show that 15 is the most, when the user achieve at the numbers 15, the usability problem found is 100%. So this is the empirical evaluation, empirical evidence to show that 15 is good numbers. Okay, so I want you to read through one by one. As soon as you collect data from single test user, your insight show up and you have already learned almost a third of all that is to know about the usability of the design. When you test the second user, you will discover that this person does the same thing, okay, as the first user. So it will overlap and what you learn. So maybe the second user give you a new usability problem, and then continue with a third user, give a similar problem and add some additional point, and continue with number 4, 5, 6 until 15. That's what it means. 15 is just good enough to discover 100% usability problem. Okay, this is the explanation. I want you to read through one by one, starting from number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, because number 5, because this is one of the favorite question in HCI examination. So I'm not saying that this question will be asked again, but I want you to be to prepare why we need 5 users is enough. Okay, so when to test more user. Okay, this is another good topic, and will challenge you to explain more about user sample of user in usability testing. Okay, when you need to test with more user, okay, you need to test additional user when a website has several highly distinct group of user. It means that you have a multiple group, and every group should representing their personas, their skill, and their capabilities. That's the reason why you need more user, because every user normally, if you take around 15 user, you might get a lot of input from them. It means that every group may go for 15. Okay, That's the best actually. All right, usability testing types of data. You can try to collect data that based on time to complete tasks, number and types of error. This is, you see the bold color show the importance of types of data. And then numbers of users making an error, number of users successfully completing a task. So this is what important in usability testing types of data. And then this is the scenario to show that we have observer at the outside from the usability lab. It's part of usability lab, but this observer can see through the one-way mirror what happened to the user. Okay, the user located at the other room, and the observer can see from one-way mirror. Okay, so this is a portable equipment for usability testing. Okay, and this is using what we call a gooseneck. This is what we call a gooseneck that can be bent, and based on this particular image, show that how the user do for mobile usability testing, mobile application usability testing. Okay, this is another mobile head-mounted eye tracker. Can be put it on the head of the user, and it will give you some eye tracking. Okay, this is example of usability testing. The iPad. In fact, you can download this article, blue, I think white papers or maybe technical report available on the net that call usability testing, the iPad. Okay, so the objective of this usability testing is to understand how the interaction with the devices affected people, and number two, to get feedback to the client and developer. So you can see that the objective of usability testing is to understand how the interaction with the devices affected people, and number two, to get feedback to the client and developers. So you might you might use this article that help you in conducting usability testing in your final project. Okay, so the example of usability. Okay, they also mentioned about 7 participants with 3+ month experience with iPhones. Okay, that's the characteristic of the user, and then sign an informed consent form explaining all of this. Okay, so in summary, I would suggest you to go through this article and try to digest as much as possible. Then only you can conduct your own usability testing in a very good way. Okay. This is example in the article on usability testing of the iPad. In this case, they are designing tasks. This is the one that we call a task scenario in usability testing. Number one, related with iBook. Number two, related with Craigslist. Number three, related with eBay and things like that. So this is an example how they develop a task for usability testing of iPad. Okay, this is the equipment used in the usability testing. Again, you can see the camera and the iPad and the chair of the user. They will try to use the iPad and being recorded by the camera. Okay, so in second part of usability testing, what you have to understand is about usability testing for research and experiment. Okay, so maybe in usability testing you can set up a test hypothesis, or you can predict the relationship between 2 or more variables. In this case, you might go for independent variables. Okay, independent variables is some variables that not depend on the other variables. For example, the independent variables example is your own prototype. And second independent variable may be the other prototype, okay, that you can make some comparison. Okay, dependent variables is something that influenced by independent variables, such as time to complete tasks, user satisfactions, things like that. So that one is what we call a dependent variables. And the fifth one, a typical experiment design have 1 or 2 independent variables. Of course, because independent variables is one of the most important. I think you have to have independent variable. You have to set up independent variable. Then only you can know how to set up the dependent variables. Okay, right. So in experimental design, what you can have to understand, you might go for different style of experimental design. Number one, you might go for different participant. Number two, you might go for same participant. Number two, you might go for matched participant. So different participant might be you have a single group of the participant is allocated randomly to the experimental condition. It means that you have, let's say you want to conduct testing to evaluate between performance of Honda and Toyota car. So you might have different group to test Honda and different group to test Toyota car. From there, that refer to different participant with a different independent variable. In this case, Toyota is independent variable number one, Honda is independent variable number two. Right, for the second method of experimental design, you might use same participant, means that you use same participant to test both independent variables like Toyota and Honda car, just like the first example that I give it to you. The third, matched participant are matched in pair based on expertise, gender, and so on. So they will be based on independent variable that you created based on participant in this case. Okay, so there are a lot of differences, advantage and disadvantage if you try to use all these three design style. But for me, you can choose either either one of them, or maybe you can you can conduct more than one experiment actually. So from here you can see with different group participant, you have advantage, no order effect, disadvantage, many subject and individual differences a problem. Okay, if you go with same participant, few individual, no individual differences, it will be disadvantage, a counterbalance needed because of the ordering effect, something like that. So matched participant, same as different, okay, but individual different reduced. So that's quite interesting for you to understand, but this is a part of experimental design that you have to choose for your final project, okay? One of them, okay. For the field study, normally we done in a natural setting. For example, in the wild, in terms of prototype being used freely in natural setting. So it means that you have to test with the actual environment, go to the actual place, and do the testing. All right. So actually, the aim of this study is to understand what users do naturally and how technology impact them. So this is why you need to understand the field study, right? Right. So a few things to be highlighted. Okay. This is an example of one study using Ubi Fit Garden. Okay, and then this slide show the differences between usability testing and research. For usability testing, you might go to improve product, but for research, usability testing might discover knowledge. And then in this usability testing, you might involve few participants, but in experiment or in your research, you might involve many participants. Result for usability testing, the result might be informed how to design better. But in terms of experiment of research, you might involve result validated statistically. And this is the things that you, what we call dealing with usability testing. See, this is the last one. I go for the last one. Result report to developers for improvements of your software. But if you done usability testing in research, you might produce something like scientific report to scientific community. Okay, so the key point of this lecture, you can see usability testing takes place in control usability lab and so on. Okay, usability testing focus on performance measurement. Affordable remote testing are more portable than usability lab, something that you can conduct usability testing in remote area, right? Experiment test a hypothesis by manipulating certain variables while keeping other constant. This is something related with independent variables and dependent variables. Okay, I will give you more extra document about how you set up independent variables and dependent variables, and you can see from few final project example papers I give it to you already highlight these issues, especially how to conduct usability testing, how to conduct experimental design, and so on. And a field study, evaluation study that I carry out in natural setting to discover how people interact with technology in the real world. Field study that involve the deployment of prototype or technology in natural setting may also be referred as a in the wild. Okay, this is the things that you have to highlight more. Okay, That's all for now. Thank you so much. I will continue my lecture